Welcome back, guys. So getting back to the topic of the Padres, where we left off, AJ Preller, who, if you don't know, was an assistant GM under John Daniels, the young GM for the Texas Rangers, uh, became the San Diego Padre GM last offseason, and wow, did he make an entrance because he totally revamped this whole organization. First off, he made the trade for Matt Kemp from the uh, Los Angeles Dodgers, and then he brought in Justin Upton, brought in Will Myers, Derek Norris, and then recently just signed James Shields to a 4-year deal with a club option for 2019 as well. The whole Padre lineup looks, I mean, it's a very righty driven lineup. You have Yonder Alonso, who's a good young kid who did have 27 home runs for them last year, but it's a very righty driven lineup, and Petco is a huge ballpark. So, it worries you a little bit in terms of their power production, but I think that if they can hit a lot of doubles, a lot of use the gaps. Their pitching looks to be very solid. They have, along with James Shields, Tyson Ross, Andrew Kashner, Ian Kennedy. You also have Josh Johnson potentially coming back, but you hold your breath with Josh Johnson. He's been kind of a big what if for the last 3 years. So, but other than that, I mean, you have a really good, solid team with the Padres and a really whole new outlook. The Padres won about 77 games last year, so to me, honestly, it looks like they really are going to be in the playoff race contention now. I mean, I could see them easily winning, 86, 87 games just from all that improvement. They improved in the catcher position. They improved in all three outfield positions. Um, Obviously, bringing in James Shields, who is, I wouldn't say he's an ace, but he definitely is a top of the rotation pitcher who's pitched a lot of innings. And it was a fun, interesting fact that they had on the MLB Network the other day. Since 2007, he's been either between 1 and 3 in innings pitched, wins, complete games, and since 2007, that's quite a stat. And you don't talk about James Shields in the same breath as like a Clayton Kershaw or Felix Hernandez, um, those type of ace pitchers. But James Shields has really held his own. He's pitching a lot of big games postseason wise. Obviously, had a little bit of shaky postseason with the Royals this past season, but he still helped them get there. And without his help, we're not even talking about the Royals being in the World Series. So definitely, it was a big move and a good gamble, I think, by AJ Preller, because Shields is not the kind of guy that breaks down. You do worry about how many innings he's already thrown. Guy always throws regularly over 200 innings, but he's been relatively healthy his whole career. So I think it was a good gamble. He is 33, so you're gonna have him until he's about 38 years old. But if you're a San Diego fan, you have to be looking forward to what the Padres are going to offer this offseason and this upcoming 2015 season. And I really think now this pushes them to second place in that division. I move the Giants down. The Giants lost Pablo Sandoval, which is a big blow in their lineup. I think Colorado is going to be, I think Colorado is going to be Colorado. They're not a very good overall team. I mean, they have good pieces, but health is a huge concern, obviously, with them, with Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez always, missing anywhere from 30 to 60 games a year. So it's going to be a concern. I still put the Dodgers number one. I know they got a little older. They added Jimmy Rollins at shortstop, which I thought was a good move. A good veteran kind of team leader. Obviously, Hanley Ramirez is a dynamic hitter. Not so great defensively, but Hanley, could be a little bit of a head case at times. Had a little run-ins sometimes with the manager, had to sit him down. So, you want to have a guy that you can entrench in there, not have to worry about. And Jimmy Rollins definitely encompasses that kind of player who you can just pencil in the lineup and he'll be in there. Even if he's not healthy, he plays. So while Rollins may not be the same versatile bat that he was, say, 5-6 years ago, he still is a guy that you can count on for good defense and some good offense, and can still hit you about 10 to 15 home runs. So I like the move there. Adding Howie Kendrick at second base also is a very good move. Very underrated player, Howie Kendrick. Again, not much of a power guy, but a good doubles guy, high average, high on base. So I think the Dodgers really solidified up the middle combo of Rollins and Kendrick this offseason. Obviously, the loss, I think, of D. Gordon is going to hurt them a little bit. Having that speedy young second baseman, losing those stolen bases, it's going to hurt a little bit for the Dodgers. They're going to have to try to find some speed somewhere else. But the Dodgers do have some good young prospects coming up, and Jock Peterson, the outfielder, and Corey Seager, who's the brother of Kyle Seager, of the Seattle Mariners, at shortstop. So they have a lot to look forward to in the future. Obviously, they still have a dynamic rotation, probably one of the best in baseball in terms of Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, Ryu. They really have a deep rotation. Good bullpen still, too. So I see the Dodgers still being on top in the NL West division, but I think the Padres are really going to give them a run for the money, especially if these guys click right away. Now, we've seen from the past when teams bring in high-priced free agents, spend a lot of money in the offseason. When the Marlins did that a couple years ago with Jose Reyes, Mark Burley, Heath Bell, and then when the Blue Jays did it with Jose Reyes, Mark Burley, R.A. Dickey, it didn't work out for them. So you can't always just buy yourself out of losing ways and hope for everything to work, because there's a thing called team chemistry, and while some may debunk it and say team chemistry is only as good as if you're winning. Well, that may be true, but you still have to trust the guys around you. You have to trust the other guys on the lineup and on the field that they're going to make the plays and have your back. So I think that if these guys mesh right away, I think that the Padres need to get off to a good start early, because if they don't, you're going to hear a lot of grumblings. You're going to hear a lot of the media saying, oh, well, Padres spent all this money and did all these trades, and, look what's happening. They're no better than they were last year. But I think Bud Black is a good manager, and he's a good people person, from what I've read and what I've heard. So I think he managed the egos that are on this team pretty well. And, the Padres also, keep in mind, Justin Upton's going to be a free agent after this year, so they didn't really bind themselves into a lot of money. And also the Dodgers are paying part of Matt Kemp's contract, so it's not like they took on a lot. The money that they really took on a lot was James Shields, obviously, because that's all their money. $75 million they're paying him over 4 years with club options. So, they're counting on a bounce back year, obviously, from Will Myers, who was the number one prospect in baseball just 2-3 years ago. So had an injury last year, kept him out for most of the year. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch the dynamic. They have a lot of right and left fielders on this team. There's no clear-cut center fielder. I guess they're going to put Will Myers there because he's more of the younger player, obviously, and they want to keep Matt Kemp healthy. Matt Kemp obviously used to be a center fielder, but the injuries have kind of took a toll on his body over the years. So I think Will Myers will probably be entrenched there to give him a shot. I really like this team a lot. A lot of people are saying, let's wait and see, but I can see that the Padres really being a force and giving the Dodgers a run for their money. But I think whoever gets off to a good start first, I really think has a good shot of securing that division, because I really think the Giants are going to regress. The Rockies I don't really see being as much of a threat either. So it's really going to be a two-man race between the Dodgers and the Padres going forward. So I look forward to seeing that division going forward. I want to talk a little bit about the Mets as well, my team. The Mets, the only really acquisition they made was the first one, which was signing Michael Kadire to a 2-year deal. I like Kadire as a player. He has hit well over the years, both with Minnesota and with Colorado. But the thing with him, he hasn't played a full healthy year since 2010. What's he really going to give you? He is 36 years old. He is friends with David Wright. Did that play a part in it? Possibly. You want to have guys that that your team captain can rely on and count on and like being around. But he's more of a complimentary player to me. I feel like if the Mets had brought in a big bat, let's say they had gotten, a Troy Tulowitzki, a Giancarlo Stanton, Jose Bautista, somehow they brought this guy in, via trade, and you're bringing Michael Kadire in as that complimentary bat to bat 6th or 7th on the lineup, then that's a great move. Then I look at that move as like, wow, you know what? This is really going to be a very good balanced baseball team, because what that does is it really breaks down the lineup and separates pieces where they need to be. So instead of having, a guy like Travis d'Arnaud maybe batting in the 6th spot, maybe he's more suited to the 7th spot, and so on and so forth. So right now, as currently constituted, again, you're having Lucas Duda as your cleanup hitter, which I have no problem with. Duda hit, 30 home runs last year, had a tremendous year for them. However, he does have his troubles against lefty pitching. So the plan is to kind of platoon Kadire and Duda, which to me, if you're taking out your cleanup hitter, even 20-30% of those games, that to me shows A, no trust in Duda, and B, I'm not really a big meddler with the lineup. I like to have a set lineup against righties, against lefties, and that's it. And if you're using your cleanup hitter to kind of mess around with that, I feel like that dynamic may not work necessarily, especially when you're taking your real significant power hitter out of that lineup, because Kadire is not going to be hitting, anywhere close to 20 or 30 home runs. He might run into maybe 10 or 12. Never really was much of a home run hitter to begin with, but I think Duda really needs to be in that lineup. And I think during spring training, they're going to hopefully give Duda the benefit of the doubt and try to have him play as many games as possible against lefty pitching to see that he can, do what he needs to do in order to keep, improving. Because Duda could be a big piece in this lineup going forward. He could be what the Baltimore Orioles Chris Davis was when he had that breakout year a couple years ago with the Orioles where he hit 50 plus home runs. Kind of a veteran guy between Texas and Baltimore, and finally gave him that full chance. He had a breakout year. So, Duda had a breakout year last year. I would like to see him continue to do that. I think it's imperative that he does that, because if he doesn't, I don't think the Mets are really going anywhere this offseason. This season, excuse me. Obviously, the Mets have a dynamic rotation as well. Welcome back, Matt Harvey, coming back from Tommy John surgery. The good thing with Harvey is he's had well over 16 months to rehab, which is really really excellent, because most guys that come back from Tommy John surgery usually come back after month 13 or 14. So he's had about 2 or 3 extra months really to get himself ready in game shape. So I'm assuming that he's going to be pretty full health. They usually say that the second year after Tommy John surgery is when you're kind of back to your peak, but because he's had almost a year and a half to get ready, I could see Harvey really being that kind of force that's really going to play well right away off the bat. And I think that he's going to have definitely a big year for the Mets, and they need him to, because if he doesn't, the Mets do have DeGrom, they do have Wheeler, you have Nice, you have G, you have Cologne, you still have Syndergaard, even Matz, Montero down in the minor leagues waiting in the wings. But Harvey is what drives this Mets team, and without his leadership and without his ace-like ability, I don't think the Mets are really going to go as far as they hope. The Mets, to me, are filled with a lot of what-ifs. If Curtis Granderson does well, if he can hit 25, 30 home runs working with Kevin Long, if Duda continues his success that he had from last year, if it carries over, if David Wright starts hitting like David Wright again, David Wright needs to be the catalyst of the team. I think the team is only going to go as far as David Wright takes them. I really, truly believe that. And, we're going to see. It's going to be – I think the Mets are going to definitely be in contention this year. I think the Mets will be a fun team to watch, because they have some good young players on this team. Darno, Lagares, Wilmer Flores, obviously, who the Mets looks like they're sticking with at shortstop. I will take him over Ruben Tejada for sure. Tejada, to me, needs to go. Wilmer Flores has shown the ability that he can definitely hit. He's hit everywhere he's been in the minor leagues. The question is, can he field adequately at shortstop? We're going to find out. The Mets gave him a couple chances last couple months of the season, but to me it was a little weird, because if they really were going to go with him as the 2015 starting shortstop, wouldn't you play him every day last year? Why would they kind of still platoon Tejada with Flores and go in and out? If I'm Sandy Alderson and I know for a fact that Flores is going to be my guy for 2015, I'm playing him every day, because I want to see what he does against righties, lefties, the best pitchers in the game, how he fares against day game after night game. But they didn't do that, so to me it's a little weird. I think Alderson thought there was going to be more shortstops available in the market, and they kind of dried out pretty quick, or that the demands for the young shortstop prospects were just too high for him to go with. So, I do think the Mets are going to get better. I think, to me right now, the Mets are maybe an 82, 83 win team right now. I think they're going to improve by about maybe 4 or 5 games from last year. If things hit on all cylinders, could they be an 87, 88 win team? Sure, I really think they could, especially if they add a piece, during the All-Star break. I think the Mets definitely can make a push, but it's imperative that the Mets start off the season on a hot streak, and that they need to have April and May be 2 months where they're above 500 and not already 5-6 games back like they have in the last couple off seasons. We're going to take a quick break and come back, talk a little bit more about the upcoming baseball season right after this.